It's not right that the Line 5 Canadian oil pipeline threatens the Great Lakes every day. For years, Enbridge broke the rules and put the Great Lakes at risk, so Governor Whitmer ordered it shut down in the Straits of Mackinac. Enbridge is desperate to keep Canada's oil flowing, so they're using every delay possible to prevent the shutdown. Enbridge destroyed the Kalamazoo River. We can't allow an oil spill in the Great Lakes. Tell President Biden to protect America and the Great Lakes from the Line 5 ticking time bomb.
This is the People's Water Board Coalition Water Wednesday webcast for February 23rd, 2022.
Welcome, 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 beloved community. We are back again with another installment of the People's Water Board Coalition's Water Wednesdays webcast. I'm here today with my co-host, Valerie Jean Blakely. Can't forget our tech guy behind the scenes, Lou Novak, and our comment media person behind the scene, Rosalind Walker. And today we have the pleasure of having someone who I've worked closely with on a number of projects. He is an awesome, awesome organizer, and he is a campaign coordinator for Oil and Water Don't Mix. Sean McBrearty, how are you today, Sean?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Nicole and Valerie Jean and Lou and everybody else. So great to be here with you all today to talk a little about Line 5.
You know, it's such an important conversation to have. Right now, it seems like every day we're getting different updates and things like that are kind of happening. There's a lot happening at one time. And I'm looking forward to just kind of sinking right into it with you because we don't have that long to talk. It's a short show. I know that 90% of the people probably watching our webcast, I hope, know about Line 5, but kind of want to just give an overview of what Line 5 is really, briefly, and the dangers that it poses to not just the Great Lakes, but really all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So a quick overview of Line 5. The pipeline was built back in 1953, so it's 69 years old. It was initially intended to last for up to 50 years. So we're talking a pipeline that's almost 20 years past its intended lifespan. Back when it was put in, it was before even the Great Lakes Submerged Lands Act was passed. So it never really had to pass a serious environmental review. And the state never actually considered whether or not it would in any way inhibit the state's duties under the public trust doctrine to protect all of our water as a public resource. So very little consideration was given when this project was greenlighted back in 1953. Also, the Michigan tribes were never brought into the discussion in 1953. They were never asked to approve of this pipeline that threatens their water and their sacred fishing grounds and ceremonial territories. Now, the Straits of Mackinac, I'm sure most of your audience knows about the Straits. There's really no place like it elsewhere in the world. It separates Lake Michigan and Lake Huron with a 5-mile stretch of water that the flow changes direction 180 degrees every 1 to 3 days. The peak flow through the Straits is over 10 times the flow of water over Niagara Falls. So it's a lot of water moving very, very quickly. And an oil spill there would be absolutely devastating, not only to the local communities in St. Ignace and Mackinac Island and lots of places in the Straits that actually rely on that for their drinking water, but on our state as a whole, our water of the Great Lakes and our economy. So for the last, ever since really 2010 in the Enbridge Line 6B oil spill in Kalamazoo, Michigan residents from across the state, I think one of the beautiful things about our state is no matter whether people are involved politically or not, just about everybody understands the importance of protecting our Great Lakes and making sure that our water is a public resource and a human right. And so for 10 years, the people of Michigan have been standing up to Enbridge and fighting to shut down Line 5. And in 2018, we came together and elected an attorney general who had it at really her core mission to shut down Line 5, and a governor who was supporting that position. And for the last 2 years, we've been, locked in these legal fights with Enbridge over Line 5. And that's just sort of the background of the issue. And then, we can talk a little bit more about what's happened since then and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, it's interesting to me the things that people have done, and we still haven't. Enbridge is just this monster corporation, just thinks they can do whatever they want. The resistance hasn't been small either. People from all over the country have come together to, certainly all over Michigan, to demand that Line 5 be shut down because there's nothing like the Great Lakes in the world. It's, it's sacred. So what's kind of happening right now? We know that it's operating illegally, that the easement was yanked by the state of Michigan in March 13th last year. So what's kind of happening now, and why are they allowed to operate illegally?
Yeah, great question. So last year when Governor Whitmer revoked Enbridge's easement to operate Line 5, she gave him 180 days to shut down, and Enbridge at that point basically flaunted her ruling on the easement and said, no, we're going to take you to the court and we're going to keep operating until a court forces us to shut down. And then in the meantime, a lot of people in the US have a big misperception of the Canadian government. They think that the Canadian government takes climate change seriously. Canada is really good at greenwashing, and Trudeau is really good at pretending his government takes climate change seriously. They don't. They're carrying Enbridge's water here. So in the meantime, they're carrying Enbridge's water and keeping ours at risk. In the meantime, the Canadian government started intervening on behalf of Enbridge. They pulled out this ridiculous treaty, a 1977 transit pipeline treaty, which was signed during the height of the 1970s gas crisis. And so, going back that far, really, it was only like Exxon and Chevron and Enbridge and companies like that knew about climate change back in 1977. They were keeping it secret back then still. But this treaty, basically, if you take Canada's trying to take a very broad reading of this treaty, which, by the way, has also never been used before. It's never been invoked by the US or Canada. So it was signed in 77 and it's sat on a shelf since then. And then one of Enbridge's really well-heeled lawyers probably said, oh, look, we found a treaty that can be used here to apply. And Canada's taking this overly broad view of the treaty and basically saying that the treaty means that no state or even the federal government would be able to regulate or shut down any infrastructure that transports hydrocarbons across the border without the permission of the Canadian government. So it's a huge attack on state sovereignty, on national sovereignty, on tribal sovereignty, and it's also something that goes beyond Line 5. If the US accepts that Canadian argument at face value and doesn't challenge it, that's going to become a precedent for what this treaty means. And when we're looking at other states that share infrastructure with Canada, from Washington out on the West Coast all the way to Maine, we have states that share infrastructure with Canada. And those states are not going to be able to shut down or regulate that infrastructure without the Canadian government telling them they can, if the US accepts this broad reading of the treaty. So,
how can they not? I mean, what's the not accepting look like? How can we stand against it?
Yeah, so the fourth article of the treaty says that relevant governmental authorities, which would include state governments, are able to regulate hydrocarbon infrastructure to protect the environment. That's exactly what the state's trying to do here. So the State Department really should go to the Canadian government and be telling them that, hey, Article 4 says we can regulate. You've got an irresponsible company over here threatening the Great Lakes and they haven't even lived up to the minimal terms of the 1953 easement. They've broken several of the several of the clauses in that easement, which is like a very minimal thing. They couldn't even keep up with that. The state has every right to shut it down, and that's the view that the Biden administration ought to be taking with Canada here.
Yes, that was what was going to be my question is, at a state level, we see that Michigan is doing what they can to try to stop Enbridge. Why hasn't our federal government stepped in yet?
Yeah, and that's really a great question, Nicole. And you know what we've seen, I feel like, so the people of Michigan, it was just grassroots, regular folks from across the state, from all walks of life, who came together to build this campaign around Line 5. And we stood together through thick and thin and were able to get Governor Whitmer and Attorney General Nessel elected, get them in position to do what they've done now. And both of them have really done everything they can around Line 5. But what we've run into is, so we have we have a very oppositional legislature. Republicans in the legislature have been in the pockets of the fossil fuel industry, whether that's Marathon, Enbridge, DTE, consumers, hell, some of the Democrats are too. We all know that. But what we've seen is, so like, for instance, in the state budget last year, Senator McBrearty tried to add an amendment to the state budget for the DNR, saying that if Michigan lost its case against Enbridge, Michigan would pay Enbridge's legal fees out of DNR salaries. The Republicans are purposefully trying to hamper the administration from being able to act on Line 5 every step of the way. Look at the budget for the Attorney General's office. I mean, she is doing heroic work, returning billions of dollars to the state through like her Michigan Public Service Commission advocacy, through going after big polluters and stuff like that. And she gets, like, her department does not get the funding that it takes to take on a company like Enbridge. You look at the docket of these cases that are ongoing right now, and there's 2 lawyers representing the state who are both, you know, fighting for everything they can against 12 lawyers from the biggest fossil fuel firms in the country. It's really a David versus Goliath fight in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And our leaders, Governor Whitmer and Attorney General Nessel, are keeping up their end of the bargain. We need support from Joe Biden right now and from the federal government. And unfortunately, we're getting radio silence at this point. So that's why we need, the same people who fought this campaign from the beginning, regular people across Michigan, to step up and make sure that our members of Congress are hearing from us. I can tell you right now, Senator Peters has been really good on this issue. He's been fighting for us with the president. Obviously, Congresswoman Tlaib has always been a leader on this issue, and I think always will be. She's been a major help, but they need to be hearing from more than 2 members of Congress. We need I'm sorry. Also, I should mention Congresswoman Slotkin has spoken out about this issue, and she's actually been very good on Line 5. But
Just
they
so
need to be
folks know,
hearing.
they can, in the comment section right now, you can go to the comment section on this live stream video, and you can sign the petition to tell President Biden that we want that Line 5 has to be shut down. So it's in there. Please share it out with your networks. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want
No worries.
they could do that. They can do that right now.
Yeah, thanks so much for sharing that in there. And then, this is all. And so I should say as well. So I like to view Line 5. This is a pretty complicated issue at this point in time. I like to view it as sort of 2 separate pieces. And the part that I'm talking about right now of what's going on is around the existing 69-year-old pipeline that remains as a huge threat to the Great Lakes. We're not even talking about the tunnel proposal yet, which is another ridiculous part of this issue.
It's so complex.
Yeah. But and so just to quickly wrap up where we are right now on the existing pipeline, the actions that we need right now to be taking are all federal government actions. We need to be reaching out to members of Congress and getting them to be advocating with Biden for our position. Our 4 asks of the Biden administration, to make them real simple here. Number 1, he should revoke the presidential permit for Line 5. He can revoke presidential permits for any reason, or actually for no reason at all. And he's got plenty of reason to do it here. And if he revokes the presidential permit, also, Enbridge would have no reason to build an oil tunnel through the Straits of Mackinac because they would not be able to get the oil back to Canada, which is where most of the oil goes. This is not oil that benefits Michigan, despite the fact that Enbridge spent $8 million last year telling the Michigan public otherwise. The other asks that we have are in the 1977 treaty. As I said, he should say that this doesn't apply because Article 4 lets the state regulate. He should also, for any other negotiations that come up with the Canadian federal government around the 1977 treaty, Michigan's tribes need to be at the table because they are sovereign nations who have their own treaty rights at stake in this very same issue. So they shouldn't be informed before and afterwards. They should actually be at the table for negotiations. And then our other federal ask is that the Biden administration orders the Department of Justice to intervene in the legal cases that are ongoing. Enbridge in court is arguing federal preemption, essentially. So what they're saying is that only the federal government can tell us to shut down, not Michigan.
Oh.
And so if the federal government steps in and says, no, Michigan can tell you to shut down, it takes the wind right out of Enbridge's sails in court. It pretty much destroys their argument. So those are our asks. And we need folks to take action on those and to sign up to volunteer. And then if you all want, we can talk a little bit about what's going on with the tunnel, because there's some important steps happening there as well.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's so much. Every day we've got every day there's something else going on in the background, and we've been standing up against the tunnel that you're about to talk about for some years now. As soon as Enbridge started thinking it up, we've been standing against it as a community here in Michigan. So yeah, please tell us that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it's been so good to have so much support and so much working together we've been able to build with People's Water Board Coalition throughout this. Y'all are doing such heroic work all throughout the state, in Detroit, Benton Harbor, and all over the place. And then to be as involved as you are in this issue is really wonderful as well. But yeah, as far as the tunnel goes, so couple important things to know about the tunnel as sort of background. Enbridge is pretending that this is sort of like a fait accompli, that it's something that's definitely going to happen. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
We've had some legitimate experts in tunneling look at Enbridge's tunnel applications and find some really big and damaging flaws, including a huge risk of explosion, either while the tunnel is being dug or even after construction. And that's, we could do a whole hour segment getting into the science on here or more, but they found a huge risk of explosion. Another thing that we discovered recently was that, Enbridge, in the last days of the Snyder administration, literally it was like December 29th at midnight.
Wow.
The Mackinac Straits Corridor Authority, which is Snyder's sham body that he set up to sign all the permits for Line 5, they signed a 99-year lease with Enbridge. So Enbridge claiming
Of course
they
he
would
did.
be operating this oil tunnel for 99 years. What we found recently, though, was paperwork that Enbridge filed with FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, where they are asking FERC to depreciate the entire Lakehead pipeline system over the course of 20 years. And what that means is that they're asking FERC to reduce the value of their pipeline system until it's zero by 2040. And the reason Enbridge is asking for that is because if their pipeline system is depreciating more quickly, they are allowed to charge higher tariffs to the companies that they're delivering oil for. Because Enbridge actually doesn't own any of the product that goes through Line 5. They're essentially a drug mule that brings oil across the border from Canada through the US and then back to Canada. So they're asking for this 20-year depreciation timeline so that they can charge higher tariffs in the short term. But so there's a huge contradiction, right, between saying that in 20 years, our entire pipeline system is going to be worthless, and telling Michigan, oh yeah, we'll lease out that tunnel for 99 years. Because as soon as Enbridge stops using that tunnel, it becomes essentially a stranded asset, and Michigan taxpayers are left on the hook for it. So we're asking the state to look into that. The next really big thing coming up on Line 5, where we're going to need lots of public support. We need everybody to come out. It's a good day for a party. St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, there is a Michigan Public Service Commission at 1 p.m. I know it's not the most fun St. Patrick's Day thing to go to, but it's 1 p.m, so it's nice and early in the day. And basically, so the Public Service Commission is supposed to rule at some point this year on whether or not they're going to give their approval for the tunnel to move forward. By March 17th, the case will be fully briefed. And so the 3 Public Service Commissioners can make their ruling anytime after that. And our chance to influence that process is going to be through public comment at their meetings. So March 17th, we need everybody to show up for public comment. It's going to be, luckily, MPSC is more accessible than the Mackinac Straits Corridor Authority, for instance. So you can attend in person in Lansing, or you can attend online.
Are you going to be putting out like social media and events and things like that on Oil and Water Don't Mix, so that it's easy for people to kind of check in and see what they can do to get involved? And that way it's easy for us to share as well. We want to be able to share those events and all of that social media on all of our stuff, so that people know how to get plugged in.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking about that. Yeah, so that's all in the works right now, as far as getting the publicity and the invites up for it and everything. We have, if you go to oilandwaterdon'tmix.org/join, which is in the chat here, you can sign up and get on the email list that'll hear about this. That'll be the first place this goes out. It's usually our email list. And then we'll get social media up within a day or so, and everything else from there. The other thing that you can do on that list is to sign up to volunteer, because we've got folks all around the state who are phone banking and text banking, and calling our supporters, making sure that we're going to have as many people as we can show up. If you're comfortable and you can show up in person, that's definitely the best way to do it. If not, that's fine too. You'd still be able to watch it online, and also to give comment online, which I know is, I think, a really good step for accessibility that the Michigan Public Service Commission is moving forward with, is allowing online and in-person comments at their meetings.
Yeah, they don't always make it easy, because they don't care about the comments 99.9%.
They really don't. They actually don't care in person either. I've been at an MPSC hearing before on various issues, and they'll allow people who are speaking in their behalf to just monopolize the microphone and allow other people to either stick strictly to their time frame or cut them short.
Well, and this, this public service, the current Public Service Commission, that's very true of like the historical Public Service Commission, especially in the Snyder era. The 3 commissioners we have now, at least I've noticed a change in that they're trying to be more fair and more accessible. It's a big system to change, but those 3 are the ones who are making the decision. And so if, this is our last chance to try to influence their decision-making in this process. So, we're hopeful
Sean
that they're going to take this into consideration.
I mean, you gave us really, there's a whole bunch of call to actions there. And I hope that people are going to go to the Oil and Water Don't Mix website, and of course their Facebook page and their social media, to keep abreast of all these things. The People's Water Board is going to be sharing it out. Plus there's a whole bunch of other organizations doing stuff around Line 5 too, right? We've got Michigan Coalition Against Tar Sands planning a big action camp and things like that. Is where all of these organizations at the end of August, we're all going to come together and demand that Line 5 be shut down. We're hoping that thousands and thousands and thousands of people make their way there. We're going to be doing action camp trainings throughout the year, and nonviolent direct action trainings with Michigan Coalition Against, with Michigan Poor People's Campaign and the Meta Peace Team here in Detroit. We're going to do statewide trainings on nonviolence direct action, so that people can really get involved in any way that that is, whatever feels good to them. At this point, we need people writing letters to the editor wherever they live every day.
Absolutely.
Right? We need
And
people every day plugging in.
And I think also for our viewers and for anyone that's watching, whether they're activists or just a community resident, they need to realize just how dire and important this is. Michigan not only has fresh water that benefits Michigan, but we have 21% of the world's fresh water. If that pipeline damages that water, it will be catastrophic internationally. It will not just be Michigan that's affected or Canada that's affected. It will be worldwide. This is vitally important that you get involved.
If you think about Line 5, it runs through 70 different tributaries throughout Michigan, right?
Yes.
And then heads back to Canada, right? So anywhere along that pipeline, if it bursts anywhere, it would be catastrophic.
Absolutely.
For oil that doesn't even benefit us. And a lot of it gets turned into plastic.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is there's a new Canadian study that one of our allies, Environmental Defense in Canada, put together this study with an oil industry expert that shows that the Line 5 oil actually doesn't benefit Canada all that much either. Like there's plenty of replacement capacity other ways where if Line 5 were shut down, instead of, we hear all these scare tactics about fuel shortages, and we heard for a while that planes wouldn't be able to take off from the Detroit
lies
airport.
That they tell.
And then they tried the same thing on the other side of the border, saying planes wouldn't be able to take off from Pearson Airport in Toronto. That was all like lies.
Lies and lies.
This
and lies.
Canadian study
so
shows.
Ironic.
Yeah. The Canadian study shows it'd be a 2 cents a gallon increase in price.
Right, but it's ironic if you think about the magnitude of water contamination. Even airlines. I was reading an article where they were saying that airlines contribute to air and water contamination because most of them, the airlines still use lead-based gasoline for their planes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we ran a whole in 2013. We ran a whole campaign that we called Enbridge Lies. People locked down to the pipelines that we, and literally got felonies for doing those direct actions that they're still paying for today. But that's how important it is to Michiganders.
But that's so ironic. You see the comparison of that distorted narrative. Okay, Enbridge lies. These people got felonies for it, but Enbridge disregarding a direct order from our governor, and there's no type
that's their own type of direct action, right?
That's their direct action, but there was no repercussions for it at all.
Well, the last time we saw Winona LaDuke at the Straits of Mackinac, she was like, I spent my whole life fighting these people with bad ideas. Let's do this, let's do that. And she's like, it's over for you people. The party's over. It's over. And it is. I think that Enbridge and these oil companies, they know the party is over. You were trying to say something. I'm sorry, Sean.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I mean, it's, I think the repercussions for their actions in running the pipeline without a permit would likely be, so the Attorney General did kind of give them a warning the day before they started operating illegally, that once they're back in state court and this is proceeding, she would be adding a charge to the case against Enbridge and going after them for I forget what exactly it's called, but essentially where the state would claim all of Enbridge's Line 5 profits from the day they started operating illegally until the day they shut down.
All right.
I hope that goes through for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great way to end.
Think of all the water pipes we could build all across the state, lead-free water pipes.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many things that we could do, and we could build it with Enbridge's money.
The irony, yes.
That's a great way to end this. Thank you so much, Sean, for coming on, and hopefully we'll have you back so that it was some good news at some point in time. Really do hope that at some point in time we are all celebrating in the streets the demise of Line 5 and Enbridge altogether, the whole corporation.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And thank you so
Right.
much for having me. It was so great to chat with you both today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You. Nicole, thank you for always going on this journey with me. Thank you, Lou and Rosalind. They're the behind the scenes folks, making sure that everything's functioning. And to all of our listeners, try to take care of each other as best as you can and try to stay afloat. Bye.